Illumination, the studio that brought you such classics as the one with the talking animals, or those weird Dr. Seuss adaptations, and every Gen Xer's favorite thing, the Minions.
I love these funny little yellow jandly bean pictures, XOXO. Actually, they're minions from Despicable Me, not jelly beans. Despicable.
This studio has been long criticized by moviegoers, but are Illumination films truly that awful? Let's find out by ranking the 17 Illumination movies on this tier list, starting where this studio began.
Minions! Tonight, we steal the moon!
Despicable Me. I've already talked about most of the Despicable Me / Minions movies before, so I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail with them. You can check out that video for longer, more in-depth thoughts. But the first Despicable Me is a solid film, by far the best from this studio. Its character writing is strong. Gru starts out as a purely evil, despicable guy who steals pyramids, gives people lethal hypothermia, and steals a coffee and muffin that in this economy would be $14.50. All equal level offenses. But after he adopts the girls to enact his evil scheme, Gru has this beautifully told story of becoming a father. He realizes his evil goals don't actually fulfill him. Giving the girls a home, giving them a family did. And Steve Carell's vocal performance as Gru is pretty spectacular. I mean, at this point, it's pretty iconic.
We are going to steal the moon!
Beyond the story and the characters, the first Despicable Me works as an entertaining movie. It's flat out hilarious. This was before the Minions became the highly marketable corporate products that they are today, and because of that, they're relegated to the background characters with only a few moments in the spotlight, which I think is only to their benefit because they're fairly enjoyable in this first movie and have some funny moments. But the real MVP when it comes to the humor is of course Vector. Vector is more than just a character. He's a brain virus who's infected most of Gen Z, making us all giggle at the mere sight of his dumb face and tangerine ensemble. I mean, what else is there to say? He's Vector. All in all, the first Despicable Me is a good movie, and it's a standout when compared to the studio's other films. It's funny, it has solid action, and a strong emotional core. So I'm putting Despicable Me in S tier.
No! Wait!
Hop. Hop is potentially one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my entire life. I remember seeing it in theaters back in 2011, but I was just a dumb kid then. Now, I fully understand just how mind-numbingly awful this motion picture truly is. Let's start by talking about the main character, EB, which of course stands for Stupid F***ing Bunny. EB is not compelling or likable or even watchable in any single way. He has his arc of becoming less selfish, but it's not really well done. In the beginning, he's a selfish little rat who doesn't want to be the Easter Bunny and wants to be a drummer instead. And at the end of the movie, he's pretty much exactly the same. But because he becomes friends with Cyclops and stops him from being executed, he isn't quite as terrible as he was in the beginning. EB has no entertainment value at all. Also, he's voiced by Russell Brand, who we don't need to get into all that Russell Brand stuff right now. That's way too serious for this stupid video. But purely as an entertainer, Russell Brand is completely unfunny, aggravatingly annoying, and makes every single piece of media he stars in so much worse. So to summarize, EB should go throw himself into a volcano. EB isn't the only main character of the film, however, as we also follow Fred O'Hare, played by James Marsden. If I had a nickel for every time James Marsden was showing an animated character of the real world, I'd have 2 nickels. But this is by far the worst version of it. Fred has this arc of getting a job, surprise job application. Ooh, scary. Fred's not a compelling character at all. His arc is lame, his relationship with his family isn't particularly well developed, and James Marsden's performance is also not great, but I can't possibly blame him for it. Do you see the nonsense that he has to work with? It's just not fair. Also, the visuals of Hop are straight up atrocious. CGI in 2011 was by no means bad. In fact, there were plenty of great CGI heavy films at that time, like Captain America, or Real Steel, or freaking Transformers. But the visuals of Hop are so artificial. The CGI characters don't feel like real breathing creatures, and they're all generic looking. The Easter Bunny workshop is nonsensical, and lacks all the wonder whimsy that it should, and a lot of the more exciting bits are let down by the lackluster CGI. Like the scene where EB gets his big shot and drums for David Hasselhoff means nothing because of the combination of the bad effects, the lackluster character story, and the fact that I'm reminded of a much better movie where a certain yellow sponge rode the Hasselhoff. I mean, what else can I say about Hop? It's terrible in every regard. It has no good moral lesson for kids, and it's a completely forgotten mess of a film from a bygone era. So Hop is going all the way in F tier.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Scares here.
The Lorax. One of the most memed movies in recent times. I think this is a decent Illumination film. I mean, it is adapting one of the best Dr. Seuss books, so even if some of the original DNA is still there, it's gonna be a decent movie. Despite the film adaptation adding a whole lot of nonsense, the original DNA is still there. The Lorax is still an environmentalist story and an anti-corporation story. It tells a really sad story about deforestation and the ramifications that come from that. And I think as a simple message for kids, the Lorax works. It tells them in very basic terms that we should preserve the environment, and that corporations are corrupt and don't care about you, and that the love of money is evil. But the film does some stuff that takes away from the impact of the original Dr. Seuss story. Like, it didn't present the Onceler as a purely bad character. Sure, in the film he did give in to his most greedy desires, but in the film he's mostly egged on by his family to do that. Taking away his role in the deforestation takes away the weight and the impact of his regret as he tells the story to Ted. Additionally, the film adds a lot of stuff in the modern day with Ted and the girl he likes in the plastic society that they all live in a very basic villain who's not compelling in any way. These elements distract from the core story and cheapen it. Also, the ending being very happy where they fix the problem is kinda garbage. In the Dr. Seuss book, the Onceler gives Ted the tree seed, and it's left open-ended as to what Ted will do with it. And while I normally think it's fun for films to deviate from the books, and I normally don't take the book into consideration when judging a film, the original ending should have stayed in the film, because that open-endedness could have been something to inspire kids and families to do something, to go out and take care of our real world. Because of all the changes made to the story, the Lorax, made by the multi-billion-dollar corporation Universal Pictures, lacks the ability to properly criticize big corporations who destroy our environment and exist to get money out of us. But outside of the story, there are some cool things about the Lorax. The vocal cast is pretty stellar. Danny DeVito, everyone loves this man. He's a national treasure.
My pieces.
Your pieces.
My guns.
Oh. Fine.
Anyway, I started blasting.
And he's the perfect choice to play the Lorax. Ed Helms is also pretty good as the Onceler. This is the second Office actor to lead an Illumination film. That's kind of neat. Rob Riggle is solid as this absolute chud of a villain. The material he had wasn't anything great, but he himself was solid. And the movie also has Betty White, so that's cool, I guess. The last thing I want to talk about with the Lorax is, of course, the music. Because for some unknown reason, the Lorax is a musical. I can't honestly say I care much for most of the songs in the film. Most of them feel as generic as they could possibly be, and add little to no impact to the story. Except for, of course, How Bad Can I Be? Yeah, How Bad Can I Be is honestly kind of a bop. Like, it's not going on my Spotify playlist or anything, but it's solid. Overall, the Lorax has its issues. It has its problems. But the Dr. Seuss story is so good, it breaks through the corporate tape and still delivers a somewhat strong message. So I'm putting the Lorax in B tier. Despicable Me 2. This is a movie that people have really hyped up that I just will never understand. Like, it's fine. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I wouldn't even say it's good. The story is a complete and total mess. It tries to do too many things and include too many stories, leaving all of them to feel underdeveloped. There's the storyline of Gru falling in love with Lucy. There's the plot about Gru learning to not be such an overprotective father. There's, of course, the main plot with the villain, and there's also whatever's going on with the minions. The main plotline with the villain El Macho is entirely generic. You can see the reveal of him being a villain a mile away. Despite the lore of the character where he strapped dynamite to his chest and rode a shark into a volcano, he's an entirely forgettable villain. Weak motivation, minimal presence, just bad all around. The story of Gru not wanting Margot to date this skater boy really doesn't go anywhere. The characters don't really develop in any meaningful way. The story just abruptly ends. And the romance plotline of Despicable Me 2 is really disappointing. The romance between Gru and Lucy could have been really cute, but they completely failed the execution.
That's what the kids call epic fail.
They have a few good moments together, but them falling in love doesn't feel natural. It feels entirely forced. Despicable Me 2 isn't all bad, though. The action is somewhat enjoyable throughout. There are a few good laughs to be had, but this film is the reason Pharrell Williams' Happy exists, so I can't put it any higher than C tier. Every time I hear that song, I, funnily enough, do not get happy.
Slow down, minion. If you drink too fast, you get bellyache.
Minions. This movie made over $1 billion, and it just goes to show that maybe general audiences don't have the best taste in the world. We all know this is a terrible film, right? The story is razor thin. It's just the minions looking for a new boss, and that's it. There's nothing else to it. The main characters of Kevin, Stuart, and Bob don't have any character stories or any depth or anything. They're just the stupid banana things. Haha, they said banana. They were the thongs. Are you laughing yet? Are you laughing? The minions were fine in the first Despicable Me film because they were on the side. They didn't have to carry the weight of a full feature film. But here, they're front and center with nothing to offer. They're painfully unfunny, their shenanigans are no longer charming, and I want to palm Bob's head like a basketball and dunk that little Yeah, I'm not really a fan of the Minions. But what I am a fan of is making a little extra cash. And you can too, thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Free Cash. Now I know what you're thinking. This clearly isn't real. And I thought so too. But Free Cash is a free online platform where users can earn cash through downloading and playing mobile games. You know it's legit because it has a 4.7 on Trustpilot, and it's also easy to use. You simply have to browse the many different offers that Free Cash will give you, select the one that's right for you, download the game, play the game, and start earning. It's as easy as that. You can do it while you're watching TV, or on a car ride, or doing something else. And once you earn rewards, you can cash out to PayPal, Amazon, Bitcoin, or even straight to your own bank account. I found Free Cash to be an easy way to earn some cash while doing my other activities, and you can too. Make sure to use my link, signupfreecash.com/anothernick, or scan the QR code. And when you sign up using my link, you will get a $10 bonus after completing your first offer. Thank you again to Free Cash for sponsoring this channel, and now back to the video. And of course, there's the main villain, Scarlet Overkill, played by recognizable Hollywood celebrity Sandra Bullock. She may very well be the worst villain on this entire tier list. She doesn't make any sense at all. And here's a clip from my Minions video to properly explain why she's so terrible. She gets mad at the Minions because they accidentally claimed the crown and Bob became king. She's mad at this because it was her lifelong dream to take over England and become the new queen. This conflict gets resolved in like 2 seconds because Bob gives up the crown. Because of course he does. He's a minion. His whole purpose in life is to serve. But then this random British guy shows up and it says, actually, it's against the law to just hand over the crown to someone else. And this conflict gets resolved in 2 seconds when Bob changes the law. So you'd think, okay, problem solved, right? Scarlet is now going to be queen and keep her loyal minions around, who bent over backwards to make sure she could fulfill her dream. All in all, Minions is flat, boring, lifeless, lacking any artistic merit, and yet it is somehow still better than Hop. Minions is going in D tier.
So I was trying to be a nice dog mom and walk my dog, but a half mile in, she gave up. Now I'm carrying her home.
The Secret Life of Pets. This isn't a real movie. You can't convince me that this is a real movie, because it's not even that it's that terrible. It's honestly not that bad. But this is the most nothing film I've ever seen in my entire life. The story is nothing. The characters are nothing. The animation is nothing. It's honestly like I didn't even watch a movie. I guess let's start with the most obvious thing about it. The Secret Life of Pets is a complete ripoff of the original Toy Story. You have the dog/toy who loves his owner, but then said owner brings home another dog/toy, which makes him really jealous. So that dog/toy tries to get rid of the new dog/toy, and then they go on a journey together, come to understand one another, and become friends. But the version of the story in this movie is so much worse. It's not developed in any meaningful way, and the characters at the center of it are so unbelievably flat. Where Woody and Buzz were larger than life, endearing characters, Max and Duke are boring, lifeless, and completely forgettable in every single way. The voice acting for them and every other character in the movie is just not great. Louis C.K. voices Max, big yikes. Eric Stonestreet voices Duke, and he's fine, nothing spectacular. And then Kevin Hart voices Snowball, who's the main villain of the movie, and yeah, this is not a very good Kevin Hart role. He really just gets on your nerves a whole lot. So overall, the characters and the voice acting are really disappointing. The animation is pretty boring. It's your very typical Illumination fare, nothing spectacular or distinctive about it. And all the character designs are really basic. There are some entertaining moments, I guess. The random scene where Max and Duke get high on wieners is kind of funny. The villains are really bad though. Instead of Snowball and his army of disregarded pets introducing some commentary about animal abuse or something like that, they're just plain evil and crazy and that's it. Yeah, I really did not care for The Secret Life of Pets. I don't hate it as much as something like Hop or Minions, but man, is it just boring and forgettable. It's gonna have to go in C tier.
Hang up. Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. Intel has told us there are at least 7.
Okay, I already see one. Give them.
They're the same picture.
Sing. I feel like this movie was everywhere back in 2016. I remember seeing YouTube ads for it like every single day, and it drove me nuts. The movie itself is solid. It's a very average Illumination movie. The story is serviceable and a little generic. It's your typical follow your dreams sort of story that is told through the perspective of many different characters with similar dreams. Matthew McConaughey Koala wants to make a truly great musical performance. Taron Egerton Gorilla wants to become a singer. Reese Witherspoon Pig wants to be more than just a housewife. Scarlett Johansson Porcupine wants to have her own voice, blah blah blah. These are all very standard character stories that we've seen before, but at least most of the characters have actual personalities and make this story somewhat entertaining. And I think this vocal cast is honestly kind of great. I want to personally thank this movie for giving us Taron Egerton singing I'm Still Standing by Elton John. Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. Because because I mentioned that really helped him land the Elton John biopic, which is better than any film in this tier list. In terms of stakes or conflict, there isn't much here that's all that compelling. There's a very standard liar reveal plotline, where Buster Moon is revealed to be lying about the prize money, and it makes all the contestants upset with him for like a few hours, so not much there really. And there was this plotline where the Seth MacFarlane mouse gets in deep with the sharks, or should I say bears. He has to like escape town to avoid getting killed or something. This was a weird character. I do not know what they were cooking with this guy. Alright, because we're talking about Seth MacFarlane and I know you want it, let's play a Peter Griffin clip.
Hey, what do you got there, Peter? Rice cakes? Never had one, but somebody told me this is a really good way to start your diet.
Sing is a perfectly serviceable way to spend an hour and a half, and that's about all it has to offer. It's going in B tier. Despicable Me 3. This is probably the most forgotten film from the Despicable Me franchise, but I honestly don't think it's too bad. I mean, it's for sure stronger than Despicable Me 2 or Minions. The story is more focused than its predecessors, with a stronger focus on Gru's personal character growth. He has a more developed arc of realizing that he isn't the failure that many people in his life have told him that he is. He helps his brother Drew and shows him that he's also not the failure that the people in his life have called him. And these two have a solid brotherly relationship that added something new to the franchise. Also, Steve Carell shines doing the voices for both of these characters and making them distinct from one another. There are some other fun story bits too, like Lucy trying to be a better mom for the girls, or the Minions having their own little side adventure. They're back to being enjoyable, by the way. Their scenes were not that bad this time around, and Balthazar Brandt as the main villain is just okay. I like his 80s aesthetic, but his story isn't very strong. Despicable Me 3 is fun, it's enjoyable, it doesn't do anything offensive or awful, it's just here. So it's another movie I'm gonna put in B tier.
Hey, what is up, my guy?
The Grinch. I never saw this version of The Grinch before making this video, despite me having seen the original cartoon and the Jim Carrey version every single year for pretty much my entire life. And now that I've finally seen it, the Jim Carrey version is no longer the worst Grinch movie. Yeah, I really did not vibe with this at all. I mean, it's fine. It's okay. It's very similar to something like The Secret Life of Pets, where it's just kinda meh. It follows the familiar Grinch storyline well enough, with the Grinch hating Christmas and stealing everything, and then sees the Who's celebrating their Christmas without their stuff, and his heart grows 3 times bigger and he becomes a good person again. That familiar bit is still here and still pretty strong, but similarly to the Lorax, there's a bunch of additions that take away from the story. This is also a problem with the Jim Carrey Grinch movie, but the additions in that film are so bad insane, they're somewhat forgivable. Like in this film, the Grinch is like this because he spent a Christmas alone. But in the Jim Carrey version, he got bullied so hard that he freaking snapped. Or when the Grinch goes into town to do some shenanigans, in this film, he hits a kid with a snowball or knocks over a jar of jam. Ooh, that rascal. In the Jim Carrey version, he assaults people, destroys property, and flies a plane into the Who Tower. Or, I mean, he drives a car into the town Christmas tree. It's basically the same thing. This is Whoville 9/11, and the Grinch is, I guess, Christmas Al-Qaeda. I struggled to find anything charming or endearing about any of this. Also, they gave Cindy Lou Who a story about trying to talk to Santa to give her mom a good Christmas present, and the movie can't be bothered to really develop this any further than the surface level. Overall, I really did not care for the Grinch. It feels like the safest, most stale version of this story. I don't even really like the Jim Carrey version, but that still has more merit than this. So the Grinch is gonna have to go in C tier. Secret Life of Pets 2. The hell did I just watch? It's hard to describe how oddly and needlessly terrible this entire film is. The craziest thing about it is the story structure. The film is broken up into 3 different parts that kinda come together in the end. And while on the surface level that doesn't seem too bad, it's 3 completely different stories that almost feel like 3 different short films crammed together. There is the one where Max and Duke go to a farm and Max has his character arc of learning to not be so afraid. Then there's a side story with Snowball, who's masquerading as a superhero and rescues a white tiger from this evil circus ran by this guy from an unknown European country. This is our main villain, by the way, this random guy. Then there's another plotline where the rest of the B characters teach Gidget how to be a cat. And while I think the Max storyline has potential, with him conquering his genuine fears over the world and possible harm coming to the new baby in his life, this story is constantly interrupted by the wacky Illumination shenanigans from the other storylines. This honestly feels like a TikTok movie. It has to constantly cut away to something else to stop the kids and the audience from losing interest. It's an almost insulting way to make make a movie. But are these individual stories any good? No, not really. The snowball plotline is just an excuse to shove a bunch of superhero stuff into the marketing so that they can capitalize on 2019 era superhero film hype. The Gidget plotline is not very interesting and filled with tired, overused cat jokes. And like I mentioned, the farm storyline could be solid, but it just doesn't have enough story for it to feel entirely developed. I did kind of like Harrison Ford as his boomer dog who essentially just tells Max to grow a pair, but the ending to this storyline and the film where Max just decides to fight the European poacher and his dogs is kind of strange. It's a very rushed way to connect all three different stories, and it remains a completely uncompelling ending. The Secret Life of Pets 2 is sorta awful in every way, and I have no interest in discussing it ever again. It's going in D tier. Sing 2. I am in utter disbelief. I didn't think I would see another good Illumination movie, but by godly, Sing 2 is actually good. The story has way higher stakes than the first film. The characters are now not only trying to follow their dreams, they're trying to prove to the world, and more importantly to themselves, that they are good at this, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. Johnny, despite what his instructor thinks, becomes a good dancer. Rosita, despite what she thinks, jumps off that ledge and becomes the lead of the show. And despite the world constantly telling him no, Buster Moon succeeds at making a world-renowned show. These story arcs are gratifying because of the heavy stakes coupled with them. Not to mention the villain of the film, Mr. Crystal, who's trying to shut the show down and also, that's right, kill Buster Moon. He straight up throws that dude off a ledge, which seems insane for this kind of kids movie. But again, that just adds to the stakes, adds to the intensity. It makes this overall experience much more memorable. And another huge part of what makes Sing 2 so much better than the original is Clay Calloway. Part of Buster's plan to make this huge show is to find this insanely popular, reclusive singer and bring him back to the limelight. And Clay Calloway's storyline is so personal and gentle, and completely different when compared to everything Illumination has done. As we learn, he completely left music behind after his wife died, because all his songs were inspired by her. She was his muse. And with her gone, he lost his spark. He lost sight of his dream. But over the course of the film, Ash shows him that music is the best way to process the grief. That playing the music inspired by her is a way to keep her alive. And the end of the film where he actually performs is so powerful because the film built up to this wonderful story. And Bono is surprisingly good in this vocal role. The animation is fine. I think this is one of the better animated Illumination films. These big musical numbers are visually beautiful and memorable, but again, the overall world and the character designs aren't visually all that interesting. And also, this is a kids movie. There are gonna be some jokes that won't land for adults, some really goofy moments and other things like that. But that's pretty standard with Illumination at this point. But still, overall, Sing 2 was a shockingly good time. It hits you in the feels in a good way, it delivers some good musical numbers, so to my shock, I'm putting Sing 2 in S tier. It's about time that I get my way. Minions, The Rise of Gru. I guess we're on a stretch of surprisingly good Illumination movies because again, this is a solid little movie. It immediately improves on the first Minions movie by including Gru. Giving him a story alongside the Minions works extremely well. Gru has a story about learning to appreciate his minions, and the Minions have a story about stepping up and saving Gru. It's a wholesome, simple tale for these characters that we are all very familiar with at this point. But they're not the only main characters of this film because there's also Otto. As I mentioned in my previous Minions video, Otto is freaking incredible. He's by far the funniest character of the film and he absolutely steals the show. The Rise of Gru featured a lot of action and most of it is fun, if not serviceable. There's also villains that are pretty forgettable. So Minions The Rise of Gru isn't amazing or anything, but it's certainly better than the first Minions, even if I did overhype certain aspects of it in my previous Minions video. So I'm putting it in B tier. The Super Mario Bros. Movie. This is one of the most beloved Illumination movies, mostly because it is a Mario movie. But I don't know, it's okay. The story of Mario growing into this hero role and becoming the one to defeat Bowser and save the Mushroom Kingdom, his home, and really everywhere else is solid. It's a good way to adapt the huge Mario history into a brand new movie. And it's full of references like the different Kongs in the audience, or Mario's fursuit, or one of the Toads mentioning the Bowsette song.
Oh, wait, I did. Our princess, though, is in another castle.
Something that I think doesn't work well for this movie is the voice cast. Instead of hiring the actors who voice these characters in the games, they went with an all-celebrity voice cast to varying results. So let's break them down from best to worst. Jack Black is sensational as Bowser. He completely transforms his voice to fit this character, and Peaches is an actual banger of a song. Peaches, 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 peaches. Keegan-Michael Key gives a different voice for Toad than we've seen in the games, but it's unique enough to work for the movie. Charlie Day is hilarious as Luigi and really captures that Luigi energy. But then there's Chris Pratt as Mario.
Growing up, man, I spent hours of my life stomping Koopas.
Yeah, for like 80% of the movie, he just sounds like Chris Pratt to me, and I don't really hear Mario. But there are a few line reads every now and then where he actually does kind of sound like Mario, so there's that, I guess. Anya Taylor-Joy's pretty flat as Princess Peach, and her voice really just doesn't fit the character. And then there's the worst one, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. He didn't even try. This is just Seth Rogen, and they even had the gall to put in the freaking Seth Rogen laugh. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, despite its flaws, does feature some stupidly fun moments though. A lot of the action bits work, like Mario versus Donkey Kong, or the Mario Kart scene, or the huge final battle with Bowser in Brooklyn. Although I am disappointed that Mario didn't call him Gay Bowser. That was kind of a missed opportunity.
So long, Gay Bowser.
There's also a lot of licensed music in the movie. None of it works in my opinion. This is a Mario movie. Why am I hearing No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Take On Me, I Need a Hero is especially egregious here. That has become maybe the most played out song of all time. That song worked really well in Shrek, but everywhere else has become just completely played out. The animation of the movie is fine throughout. There's nothing exceptional about it. I think most of the characters besides Princess Peach are well characterized here. They made Peach a girl boss character, which I don't think works all too well for Peach. I mean, she can square up, that's for sure. She could be an absolute menace in Smash Bros. But her personality is just completely different in this movie. She's pretty much not even the same character anymore. But still, overall, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a pretty fun experience. And it's clearly better than the 90s live-action Mario film.
Monkey!
So the Super Mario Bros. Movie is going to go in B tier.
Wrong.
Migration. I'd put this in the same category as The Secret Life of Pets. It's an entirely generic, nothing burger of a movie. It's a very typical story we've seen a bunch of times, where an overprotective father is thrown into an adventure where he's trying his hardest to protect his kids. But the kids want to prove that they can do things on their own. And then at the end, the parents are in danger, and the kids have to save him, and it's a very basic story, and it offers nothing else. I guess them being ducks adds something, because they made a few duck jokes here and there, but I don't know. Finding Nemo had a very similar story, and it was far more nuanced and far more emotionally compelling. And it doesn't help that the characters are also exceedingly generic. The panicky dad duck is a panicky dad duck, and that's it. The fun-loving mom duck is a fun-loving mom duck. And that's it. And the crazy grandpa duck is, you guessed it, a crazy grandpa duck. There's nothing distinctive or memorable about anyone in this film, and it brings the whole experience down further and further. I wouldn't say the vocal cast is awful, but they're also not extraordinary. It does feature Awkwafina, which is a bit of a drag, but Kumail Nanjiani and Elizabeth Banks are both fine, but at least Keegan-Michael Key and Danny DeVito were good. They're for sure the standouts. The general plot of the family trying to get to Jamaica is serviceable and leads to some scenes that I'm sure are fun for families, but I can't really say that the movie excited me all too much. It was pretty painful to get through. But there were some moments where the animation actually kind of looked cool. Like when the family first enters the city, we see it from their perspective. The bright lights look almost alien, and it kind of sold the scary nature of a big city from the perspective of a duck. So that was cool, but all in all, Migration really wasn't for me in the slightest. It's gonna have to go all the way in C tier. Despicable Me 4. This is the most safe and generic film from the whole Minions franchise. Gru and his family being forced into hiding could be a fresh new story for the series, but the movie doesn't do anything interesting with it. There's no compelling story arcs, no real stakes, nothing good at all. It's just a random series of shenanigans where the family try to hide their identities in this new environment. And the film also made Gru especially stupid because he's found out by this neighbor girl who's an inspiring supervillain, so she blackmails Gru into doing her bidding, which leads to Gru putting his family in danger. A lot of this movie really is just painful to watch. The main villain, Maxime, is whatever. Will Ferrell is cool and his motivations make sense, but the character lacks any real presence to be memorable. Also, the Mega Minions are here, but they pretty much do nothing in the movie. They were kind of an interesting concept, but the movie doesn't do anything interesting with them, so I'm pretty sure they exist solely for the marketing and nothing else. Despicable Me 4 is unfunny, boring, lacking any depth, and easily the most forgettable film of the whole franchise. It's gonna have to go in D tier. The Super Mario Galaxy movie. This was a very controversial movie when it released, striking an online debate over whether or not we should be so critical of children's movies. And if you haven't gathered from the rest of this video, I think we should be critical of children's movies. Not only because we shouldn't want kids to watch mindless slop, but also because we've seen how great kids movies could be. Stuff like The Lion King, or Beauty and the Beast, or most of early Pixar, or most of Studio Ghibli. These are all movies made for children, but they're made competently, with thought put into the story and the visual directing and the messages of each film. And so while I do like the Super Mario Galaxy movie, it shouldn't get a free pass from criticism just because it's for children. And speaking of criticism, this movie carries over a lot of the same issues of the first film, and then some. The voice cast is really iffy, the animation is meh, and there is still some really bad licensed music. But the story of the Super Mario Galaxy movie is considerably worse.
I have a question for God.
There aren't any real character stories to speak of. Mario and Luigi are both just sorta here. Neither of them have any depth or go on any arc. While I think it's hilarious that Yoshi becomes one of the boys instantly, he also doesn't have any written character arc. Princess Peach almost has something where she finds out more about her past, which leads her to the revelation that Rosalina is her sister. That story doesn't have very much real development or depth. It's a very surface level story, and the big adventure these characters go on isn't very well paced. They just go from one location to the next randomly until it's time for a big final battle. But at least the action is still good, and do a pretty good job of showing off the different powers of the characters. Also, I understand that people don't like it when movies are filled to the brim with cameos, but those people are lame. I think it's perfectly fine for a Mario film to feature cameos from various Nintendo games. Fox McCloud was an awesome inclusion, and Glenn Powell knocked it out of the park in this role. I mean, just the way he hits that barrel roll sends me every single time. Barrel roll! Rob the Robot is another fun inclusion, but really, the character that got the loudest reaction out of me was, of course, Mr. Game & Watch. Just look at this man. He's freaking awesome. I can't wait to see him again.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
All in all, the Super Mario Galaxy movie is a C-tier movie at best, but it does have Mr. Game & Watch in it, so just for that, I'm bumping up to B-tier. But before we move on to the newest Illumination movie, I just want to say we are on the road to 1 million subscribers, and once we hit that goal, I'm releasing a video on every single Adam Sandler movie, because for some reason, you guys want that. So if you're one of the people who want to see that video, make sure you subscribe, I guess. But for now, let's move on to Minions and Monsters. I'd be lying if I said I was ecstatic about this movie. None of the trailers exactly blew me away, and this seemed like general Illumination fare. But honestly, I didn't hate this movie at all. It's not the absolute best Illumination movie, but it more than does what it sets out to do. Unlike the first Minions film, this one has a story for its central characters, James and Henry. These two have a pretty well-crafted story arc about breaking away from the world they've known and doing their own thing. Their Minion tribe is very similar to the one we've seen in previous movies, where they only want to find a new boss and serve them. And the leader of this tribe, Dick, that's his real name by the way, constantly berates James and Henry because they're so different from the rest of them. And once they discover Hollywood, they find a passion for filmmaking. And the whole movie is them attempting to make a monster movie to prove to everyone that they can do this. It's a solid enough story, and I appreciate James and Henry having unique personalities and stories compared to other Minions. And speaking of filmmaking, this movie adores movies, and that is so freaking awesome. Granted, as soon as I heard about Minions going to Hollywood, I got a bit worried because I thought they were going to serve some evil boss over there, but they filled the movie with so many fun references to cinema. The Minion recreation of Citizen Kane is a lot of fun. You see different movies like E.T. or Jaws, and best of all, George Lucas himself makes a cameo. While everyone else was talking about the sequel trilogy, he's just like, yes, I'm quite fond of Minions. The monster part of this movie wasn't quite as endearing. The main villain of the film is Goomy, a monster who at first seems nice but secretly plans on tricking James and Henry and destroying the world. And he's a pretty flat villain, even if he does sound like Eric Cartman because he's voiced by Eric Cartman. But the whole end of the world plotline was pretty forgettable. And there was also a subplot where the other Minions start working for a robot from space named Dort, and Dort falls in love with a human woman. And I didn't care for that storyline because it's just clanker propaganda. And I think I've made it pretty clear on this channel that I hate clankers in all shapes and forms. And there are other problems with the movie too. The pacing can be iffy at times, not every joke lands, and the animation is just just sort of meh. But overall, Minions and Monsters is a solid entry in the franchise. It has a good story, some funny moments, and it's a light and breezy way to spend an hour and a half, but it's also not an exceptional Illumination movie in any way. So I'm putting Minions and Monsters in B tier, and that's my ranking for every Illumination movie. Based on this, you probably think I'm mostly positive on this studio, but this ranking is really only because Illumination movies do have a ceiling in terms of quality. If I added a movie like The Lion King, the tier list would look something like this. So while I do enjoy some Illumination movies, I do think the studio can improve, but they likely won't because the movies make bank regardless of what anyone says. And be sure to sign up to FreeCash today for a bonus $10 reward. But with all that said, I hope you enjoy the video. Make sure to leave your own rankings down in the comments, and also check out this video here. I'm sure it's one you'll enjoy.